Tyson on his way to becoming one of the youngest heavyweight champions of all time. Bangs the body. Wow, that uppercut is Tyson. Catches him with a right left hook, and he went down.
Trunks for the champion, Jose Aldo Jr. Conor relaxed and smiling. Oh! Just slapped him! Like that! Conor McGregor is the new UFC featherweight champion of the world!
There is a ceiling that you have to break through. But in order to get to the next level is because you can see what you want to become. But the only reason you can see the next level is because this ceiling is made of glass. In order to get to the next level, you must be willing to break through the glass. Anytime you break through glass, you are going to get cut. You are going to bleed. And in order to get to the next level, you are going to have to give up something that you care about. You cannot take everything with you.
What advice do you have for young kids that look up to you?
If there's anything in life you want to accomplish, especially in sports, I've learned from my mentor, Customata, it's all about sacrifice and discipline. And people may have different definitions of discipline. I'm sure we all do. But my definition, which I grew up and learned, was doing what you hate to do, but do it like you love it. You absolutely love it. You have to sacrifice whatever you love. You love this girl, you love these friends to hang out. It's to sacrifice them and to test your will. Because your will will be tested. And that's what's man's biggest challenge, is not his opponent, but himself. We normally lose to ourselves before we lose to any opponent.
Alguém no caminho que você teria uma dívida ou que não deu?
Se existe alguém, esse sou eu mesmo, com quem eu fui até hoje duro demais comigo mesmo, com as pessoas que fazem parte do meu meio ambiente, da minha família, mas comigo mesmo, sobretudo pelo esforço e a dedicação que eu coloquei para mim mesmo, os objetivos de vencer, de ser competitivo, de ter sucesso, de vencer esse campeonato. E eu sacrifiquei muita coisa em mim mesmo.
I heard a quote one time from Vincent van Gogh that really rang true. He said, he has dedicated his life to his art and he has lost his mind in the process. And when I sat and I thought about that, it sounded very familiar. I have given every single thing, every ounce of my life to this craft, to perfecting my craft, and I continue to do so. And in the process, I have lost my mind, but in a good way, to regular society, to people who wake up at 9 a.m., who clock out at 5 p.m. They would look at me and say, I've lost my mind, but me, I have found it almost.
By putting in the work, sacrificing a lot of things, left my mother in a hood until I was able to move her out the hood, and she didn't have to work again. That's what I did. So a lot of sacrifices. I wanted to move her with me when I first left, but you have to sacrifice something to get something.
I tell people, if you're going to take this road, there's a huge sacrifice that people don't think about. Most people think, I'm going to start a company, 2 months later it's going to be worth $1 billion, and I'm going to make a fortune. That is actually not what happens to 99% of people. 8 out of 10 fail. They have to do it 3 times. They spend a decade before they get their hit, or they work at one company for 15 years, and they finally get an exit. It's more like that, and the personal sacrifice is huge. There is no soccer game on Saturday. There's no Sunday dinner with the family. You're working because some guy in China or in India or some woman out there is kicking your ass. because we're in a global competition now. And so I don't care what your business is, men, women, you have to understand that you're going into a huge lifestyle change. And I tell people it's not for everybody. Don't do it if you don't have the stamina to get kicked around and driven into the ground and get up and do it again and beaten up by people that tell you, this is not kumbaya stuff, this is hardcore stuff.
This is the Peter Pan story, roughly speaking. Peter Pan is this magical boy. Pan is the god of everything, roughly speaking, right? And so it's not an accident that he has the name Pan. And he's the boy that won't grow up. And he's magical. Well, that's because children are magical. They can be anything. They're nothing but potential. And Peter Pan doesn't want to give that up. Why? Well, he's got some adults around him, but the main adult is Captain Hook. Well, who the hell wants to grow up to be Captain Hook? First of all, you've got a hook. Second, you're a tyrant. And third, you're chased by the dragon of chaos with the clock in its stomach, right? The crocodile. It's already got a piece of you. Well, that's what happens when you get older. Time has already got a piece of you. And eventually, it's got a taste for you. And eventually, it's going to eat you. And so Hook is so traumatized by that he can't help but be a tyrant. And then Peter Pan looks at traumatized Hook and says, well, no, I'm not sacrificing my childhood for that. So that's fine, except he ends up king of the Lost Boys. In Neverland, well, Neverland doesn't exist, and who the hell wants to be king of the Lost Boys? And he also sacrifices the possibility that he'll have a real relationship with a woman, because that's Wendy, right? And she's kind of conservative, middle-class, London-dwelling girl. She wants to grow up and have kids and have a life. She accepts her mortality. She accepts her maturity. Peter Pan has to content himself with Tinkerbell. She doesn't even exist. She's like the fairy of porn. She doesn't exist. She's the substitute for the real thing. And so, but the dichotomy that you're talking about is very tricky, because there's a sacrificial element in maturation, right? You have to sacrifice the pluripotentiality of childhood for the actuality of a frame.